listener production.
Hey, Chris Spyrou with you. Welcome to this episode of The Briefing. Now, before we kick things off, does this sound mean anything to you?
Hi, I'm Gretel Galene, and at last the moment you've been waiting for is here. Are you ready? Yeah! Australia welcomes Big Brother. Yeah!
Yep, the show that brought us iconic moments like this and memorable lines like this
Game on, moles.
is coming back to our screens again. So Big Brother Australia is returning in 2025 and it's going back to its original home, Network 10. But after traversing 3 networks, being revived and killed twice, and now needing to compete with the dominance of ad-free streaming, is there a place for a show like Big Brother anymore? Well, it looks like the network will be bringing back some of its iconic live segments, so things like Big Brother Uncut and maybe Friday Night Live, to lure audiences back to mainstream telly. But is that enough? Joining me now is entertainment and gossip correspondent and self-proclaimed reality TV show veteran Richard Reid. Richard, thanks so much for joining us once again on The Briefing.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here.
Look, before we get into the Big Brother reboot, which I know you have thoughts on, can you just reset for us and tell us a little bit how a show like Big Brother was received by the Australian public when it first aired in 2001?
2001. Well, that comes after the year 2000 when the world is supposed to come crashing down. All of a sudden, everything was going to stop and people were so scared. And then it didn't happen. And all of a sudden, there was hot, young, nubile people hardly wearing anything, and we were watching them 24/7. And it was called Big Brother. Boom, boom, boom. I think that's so exciting because when I was a child, I thought, one day we're going to have gladiators and people are going to fight to the death and it's going to be on TV. Well, Big Brother really wasn't far from that. And all of a sudden, boys, girls, nanas, dads, the dog, we were looking into the secret lives of other people. We were spying on them. We were looking through the peephole. And while they knew we were watching, after about 3 or 4 days, they forgot we were watching. And I think that's what captivated Australian audiences like nothing before.
Yeah, that's right, Rich. And actually, at its peak, it hit 2.1 million viewers per episode, which is absolutely insane. But after a series of controversies and a dwindling audience, Channel 10 made the decision to axe the show in 2008. So as you know, that's where it went on its first hiatus for 4 years before it got picked up by Channel 9 in 2012. And then it took another 5-year break and it ended up on Channel 7 in 2020.
Yo, the Channel 7 years. Or is it year? Yeah, no, Channel 7 did not treat Big Brother with the respect it deserved. I really felt 9 gave it a go. It did okay. Viewers were like, not so sure anymore. We don't have the stars that we once had. Well, you did have Tim Dormer. Yeah. Tim really changed the game when it was at 9. He all of a sudden started using his brain, and he was the master manipulator, the puppet master, as it were. So he really revitalized it, yet Tim alone could not carry it to the finish line at 9. Fast forward to 7, and 7 just effed it up. What can you say? All of a sudden, there was really pretty people, really full lips and hot guys. And also, correct me if I'm wrong, did they start doing a lot more of those physical challenges?
Yeah.
Where it became like Survivor?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was part of the criticism. A lot of people were saying, this feels like Love Island. It feels like Maths. It feels like Survivor in a way. And it lost, especially that was a COVID year that it launched, 2020. Those housemates were alerted to the fact that, you know, the pandemic shut down the globe. So it did have production challenges, but a lot of the criticism around that, the treatment of the show, was that it was highly produced and highly edited. And we lost live evictions and live nominations.
That was the thing. All of a sudden, I think one of the things that really attracted viewers early on was they were part of the show. They could dial in or then later pick up their phone and vote for their favorites, which I think to be a participant is really the most 1984 Big Brother kind of phenomenon. And then when it went to 7, it really lost that. I think that we felt not a part of. We felt less than. We were watching them. We had no control over someone's life.
Yeah, exactly. And we spoke about this before the interview. We spoke about how they rebranded it and they branded the last season The House of Love.
Yes, they did. The House of Love.
And that final episode, that attracted just over 150,000 viewers in the 5 capital cities in Australia.
You know, I had just found out. I was like, gosh, it seemed like a rushed season. Well, apparently Channel 7 was like, we've got to abandon this sinking ship. So they took episodes that were in the can, spliced them together, and, you know, made the season really short. So all of a sudden there were these jump cuts. You're like, well, wasn't she? Well, I thought that he had. And then all of a sudden it was done.
So Channel 10 announced this week that the show is coming back in the last quarter of 2025, so late next year. And in its announcement, they promised to bring back the show's original spirit. So they're promising 24-hour live streaming, live nominations, and live evictions. Why do you think this is their selling point?
Well, as I said before, if the public can be a participant, they like that. And there's also the immediacy. You push the button and it happens. Everyone at home is all of a sudden a mini puppet master. Everyone likes that, you know, a cause and effect. And everyone's rooting for their person. And so I think that's a selling point. And also I think the 24/7 that you can tune in at any time. You know, there's some sleep freaks out there. They want to watch people sleeping. I don't know who they are, but there's something for everyone in that effect. You know, just going back a little bit, I think one of the downfalls eventually was one of my favorite parts when the show got just a little bit naughty. When you were seeing people shower naked, you're like, oh my God, on TV?
Yeah, Big Brother up late.
Apparently, John Howard, he was like, this is smut. This show needs to be taken off the air. And I'm like, what? It's the best thing I've ever seen.
Here's a great opportunity for Channel 10 to do a bit of self-regulation and get this stupid program off the air.
And that was one of my favourite promos because Channel 10 really rode that wave and ran it in multiple promos, which is genius in my opinion.
The show John Howard wants off TV.
And look, speaking of the way that we're consuming reality content these days, it has changed in the last 2 decades. That's undeniable. So we know people are switching off from mainstream TV and they're now either consuming very hyper-produced shows on streaming services like Netflix or Hulu and things. So I'm thinking like the Kardashians, the Real Housewives. Or they're going the other way and they're spending countless hours watching random people live stream on TikTok and Twitch. So there's this real interest in reality. We're consuming it very differently. How does Big Brother fit in with all of that?
Oh, wow, that was a big question. But I will say this. When Big Brother started, they had an audience, was quite broad. And the audience that started with them were probably maybe in their 20s at the time. Now they're in their 40s, early 50s. They're the ones that might tune in to watch. The young people today, I don't think will watch. They might tune in from time to time if they can look up from their phones. They will not have the same kind of investment the way mom and dad and Nana are going to have. However, mom and dad and Nana are not the demographic that advertisers want. That's the problem with so many shows this past year have been canceled. SAS, you know, The Masked Singer, they're very expensive to produce. And while sometimes they do have the ratings, they've set at 10. It's still not worth the bang for our buck. They're very expensive and they're not profit generators. So while the people might like them, the network ain't making money. If the network ain't making money, they're going to find something else, like dogs behaving badly. And with the kids on their phones and on their laptops, don't underestimate the power of streaming. When Love Island premiered, remember that Sophie Monk show? It was first on the TV, and then there was catch up, and then the numbers, boom, it was a certified hit, and everyone was happy.
Speaking of people who aren't happy, You have spoken in the past because you are a reality TV show veteran. You've done
Yes.
Celebrity Apprentice. You've been crowned the king of Australia's jungle with I'm a
Yes.
Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here.
Yes.
But you have spoken about the manipulation that goes on sets of reality TV shows.
Yes, I have. Especially a Celebrity Apprentice. Okay, that show, I really thought I was going into one kind of show where everyone kind of, gets along and does these tasks and everyone's nice. Well, I made the mistake of going on with Tim Dormer, the master manipulator, the puppet master. And also behind the scenes, the producers were secretly pitting players against one another. They'd say, oh, so how does it feel that the rest of the team feels you let them down? And you're like, huh? What? What? Who said that? And they're like, we can't say. Well, I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And so it was just so mean. And they would just pump you full of coffee and no food and work you to death. So I really felt that was conducive to mean-spiritedness. And I think if you have mean-spiritedness, that the audience can feel that, and they really don't want to see that. On the other hand, you have a show on 10, like I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which is mildly produced. They kind of leave you on your own and put you in situations. But no one ever once told me what to do or what to say, which I'm still shocked that I won.
But part of the charm of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, like you said, is that low level of production interference. When we think of a show of Big Brother, we look at the voice of Big Brother, the all-seeing, the all-responding Big Brother. He's the epitome of the production. So as viewers, we really get to witness production in action. So do you think that's playing into why Channel 10 isn't feeling that scared to bring this show back?
Because it is low production. You just put them in a room and start filming.
Yeah.
I would think so. I would think the most expensive thing would be the house itself and to set up all the cameras. I'm not sure who this new host is. I've heard her name. I've seen her a few times, but they're certainly not spending a lot of money on her.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us on The Briefing.
Anytime.
That was entertainment and gossip correspondent Richard Reid there talking about Big Brother coming back next year. That's it for this episode of The Briefing. Now, we'd love it if you could share this episode with someone who you think might love it. And if you want to keep up with our other content, you can check us out on Instagram at The Briefing Podcast and on TikTok and YouTube. Just search Listener Newsroom. And we'll be in your feed tomorrow at 6 a.m. for the weekend briefing where Antoinette Lattouf chats with Australian comedian Sean McAuliffe.
I used to do a lot of accent work when I was younger, because I'm a sketch comic. We played different characters and characters with different heritage, and characters which these days you would be a little more sensitive to as you approached it. You think, well, I don't have lived experience with respect to that character or the heritage of that character that I'm playing. I think a lot of actors come to that conclusion too now. They think, I don't really have any particular insight into that character's personality, so I might leave that. I might leave that alone.
I'm Chris Spyrou. See you next time.